There comes a time for coaches when they can't take on more clients because they have no time left to give. And while some coaches are happy to not take on more clients, others want to continue to scale. In this week's Hot Seat episode, Forrest isn't feeling confident in his delivery method. He wants to scale and knows he can automate a lot, but he doesn't want to lose the custom feeling his clients love. Jonathan helps Forrest tighten up his onboarding process and create a plan for getting more clients without getting beat down by the workload. I'll be back at the end to recommend another episode. Enjoy.
Forrest, we're going to get going with you first. You've been here a few times, so you kind of know the drill. But if you can just start us off with saying who you are, who you help, and what you really want to talk about today. We'll get going.
Yeah, so this is my first hot seat. My name's Forrest. I live in Hermosa Beach. I've owned a gym for 14 years. I sold it in October. I started going online during the pandemic because we had to shut down our gym. And I really spent about 2 years just really focusing on building up a social media following and didn't really monetize it all. And then I got into online coaching, started offering, had no idea what I was doing with online coaching, really focused on nutrition to start. I joined a program, I think, in early 2020 to figure that out, and it was awful. It was I definitely wasted money on that. And then I joined another group called Lennis, which they take like 30% of your earnings. And I thought, I learned some stuff from them. I quit them in 2022. And I didn't really have a niche. I just was pretty much helping everybody. And what happened was I started to figure out that my demographic was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 35 to 45. Moms, dads, people who are working 9 to 5s. And that's really like, it wasn't by choice. It basically just kind of happened that way.
Wow.
And I realized I built up to around 35 clients. I was undercharging a lot. I started to raise my prices, still undercharging. And then I just had a really tough time with scaling. I was doing a lot of stuff where I'm like a lot of individual things, and it was just taking up way too much time. Then when I decided to go all in October, sold my gym, it was just, I still am a little bit lost. So then I joined this, I think, in the end of December. So relatively new.
Cool. What are we talking about today, man?
I don't know, dude. I thought you were going to tell me. I haven't done one of these before. So, I mean, I think that my major pain points are what I'm delivering. I don't really, I mean, for the most part, I understand that like the gist of everything is just scaling things. So I'm not constantly spending hours of my day on people's questions that I'm answering
Right.
all the time, the same ones over and over. But also at the same time delivering something that's custom for people so they feel like they're getting their money's worth. And then I mean that's really my main hang up right now. I'm trying to figure out my offering. And it's pretty much like, well, what do you need? Okay, I'll do that for you. And I
Right.
just want to get out of that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you had two things on your document here. One was the clear list of deliverables, which it sounds like is first priority, and the other one is just uh, you don't really market your coaching a lot. You're
No.
talking about how you need more calls to action. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to talk more about the deliverables?
I mean, I think with the calls to action, it's just me just, actually doing
Yeah.
it, like talking about my coach. I really don't talk about it a whole lot. And I'm really, I think it's just me actually doing it. And part of that is because my deliverables, I'm like, oh man, if I hire a new person, that means it's a shit ton more work. And do I
Yeah.
really want to do that?
Oh, okay. So there's a little bit of that
Ye-
going on where there's the worry of like, if you actually want to market, you'd get more clients, and if you got more clients, then the workload would kind of beat you down.
Yeah, like literally, if I signed up 20 people, in the next month, I think it would be a disaster.
Okay.
Because I'm not able to scale. I'm also really not super confident with what I'm delivering. And I think I'm starting to build that out now, but I'm not really not really confident with that just yet.
Cool. Okay. So talk to me about the most recent client that came on. You can make up their name, but tell me who they are and tell me what the process was to get information from them, and then what did you send them?
So basically the process is they fill out the application online. I have a call with them, and
Okay.
my calls, I wish
Where's
they
the
were 15
application
minutes.
hosted?
I do it on Acuity or like Squarespace scheduling.
Okay. Okay.
So it's basically just a typical questionnaire.
Yep.
Then I go through everything. Where are you at? What has worked with you in the past? And basically like figure out a game plan for them. I always talk to them like they've already signed up.
Yep.
So I give them like, here's your rough plan. And then when they sign up, I tell them it takes me a couple of days to make the program. I make a program for them. And then I start them on some pretty simple habits. Most people are struggling with nutrition, so I do a lot of nutrition work with them. I have some deliverables that are like PDF format. I do want to have more video format.
Okay.
And basically like I'd like to have like a class set up for them, but I don't really have that just yet.
Okay.
And
So this
I'd like to have more
person came
community.
on with you.
Mhm.
They filled out your Acuity form, your
Yeah.
application. You had the phone call, and then like I want to get into specifics with this one person because that'll help me
Okay.
kind of visualize the process a lot better than speaking more in generalities. So, what did they want? What was their goal?
So this guy's name is Matt, and he the most recent person, his name's Matt. He's
Okay.
like I think he's like 38, does software sales.
Okay.
Hasn't worked out in like probably 5 or 6 years. Just
Okay.
typical like, he's a little soft. He's married. They want to have a kid. He doesn't have a gym membership. He works out at home. He's actually getting a gym membership now because he's realizing that he needs a little bit more equipment.
Okay.
Doesn't have a ton of time. He eats like your typical, I don't know, 38-year-old dude from like Chicago or whatever it is. Doesn't get a lot of steps.
What does
And it's
that
just
mean?
really like,
What does that mean?
what do you mean?
He eats like your typical 38-year-old dude from Chicago. What does that mean?
I mean, it's like bro's eating like they go out to pizza a lot. They do they drink, 3-4 times a week.
Okay.
They're sometimes he'll just eat like a microwave dinner. It's just like he's like halfway like living like a bachelor and halfway just like doing whatever's easiest for him because I'm sure he
Got
comes
it.
home and he's a little stressed. So his diet's not great. Doesn't really understand. He's never tracked food before. So I don't really have him tracking, and it's just like this slow habit change kind of thing, and it's just like that. It's like that with pretty much every client where it's like trying to work on these slow habit changes. And he also he snacks a lot, so he like half the week he works from home, so he's just constantly eating food because I think he gets stressed out.
Okay. So what was the first thing that you sent him?
The first thing I sent him was just some low calorie, high protein snacks, um, and then some ways to get in more steps. That was like the first thing, just more movement in general.
How did you send him that?
Just in a PDF in Trainerize.
Okay.
They were just general tips.
And is that already built?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Okay. What's the second thing you did with him? So then you had to build his program, right?
Yeah. So I built out a program for him, and he has like some crappy at home dumbbells, and he doesn't. That's it. That's all he had was some adjustable dumbbells, and he's working out in his bedroom and using
Mhm.
like a bed like a bedside bench for like his bench. I'm like, bro, that's not the best, but we can work with that. And I think he's done that for a month so far, and he likes it, but he just can't. I mean,
Okay.
he just can't do a lot.
Yeah. So he'll join a gym, but that's pretty common, I would think.
Yeah, it's really
Once
common.
people start to self-identify as the type of person who works out, they're willing to do things like join a gym and whatever.
Yeah, and I didn't want to. I wanted him to want to do that instead of me being like, no, you got to join the gym. So he
Yeah.
sees the value in it now, because before he was like, I don't really want to join the gym. I could just kind of, and now he kind of sees the value.
I mean, it sounds to me like there's probably a lot of people like Matt who come in to see you.
Yeah.
The one lines that I wrote down here is a little soft, right? These guys are not like far gone, but they're a little soft. They used to train
Mm-hmm.
their ages. I mean, I'm 38, so I get it. So like, body's not like completely catching up with me, but if I'm not careful, it would. And
Yeah.
that never used to happen when I was in my 20s. But it's happening now.
And like all the dudes or and women, like they're in like their mid to late 30s, still think they're in their 20s, right? So they still think they can like kind of fuck off and be like, oh, I could still get fit. It
Yeah.
just gets a lot harder. And I think that's the big realization that a lot of people have.
Okay. So it's going to be pretty similar programs and starting points, I would think, with these people, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any, the most important thing that I found as you start to scale is there needs to be some sort of usually quantifiable but very easily recognizable point where you can say, if this is you, then this is for you, and here's where we're going. And then you can individualize it. But it seems to me like, if you're 35 to 40, call it a little soft, which is going to be basically everybody. So I don't work with people who have more than 30 pounds to lose or whatever that is, right? Just for no other reason than, I'm not saying that you should do this or shouldn't do this. I'm just saying that there needs to be some sort of line of demarcation, because the only way to really scale is to be able to productize and systematize a lot of your offerings so that you can do some combination of outsourcing it to assistant coaches very easily who you bring on and trust their work, and automate it. That sounds like you have some of the automation stuff, like with the low calorie, high protein guide, with the guide to get more steps. Like you've got some of that stuff, which is great. It's going to be basically everybody who comes in. It's like, okay, middle of the day, you're hungry. It's not the best, but if you're going to have a snack, here's a bunch of good options. Right. And so I guess my first question to you then, Forrest, is, can you think of any containers, I guess for lack of a better word, that the majority of the people you work with fit within?
Oh yeah, definitely.
What is it?
So I have right now, like I said, mainly people 35 to 45, and within that group, I have like your Mac guys that are like the software sales guys, and then
Yeah.
you have like the moms, like the stay-at-home moms or the working moms that are also like trying to pretty much do the same thing, and they have very similar deals, except some of the moms have some other issues, and for some reason, I work with a lot of women who have PCOS as well,
Okay.
and I don't know why. I do. I think I made a few posts on PCOS, and so basically that's what happened. So they're in a separate bucket, and then I have some other people that are outliers. So I have some people who have like hundreds of pounds to lose.
Okay.
Then I have a couple guys that are like crazy, like they're actually really fit. Like one guy like he's an Ironman, but he's like 70 pounds overweight. And I don't understand how he does that, but I have a few people that are like that.
You're like, I don't understand the biomechanics of this, but it's really
The dude
impressive.
just loves to eat, like loves to eat, and it's like some days he'll be eating like 6,000 calories, like,
Yeah.
but by some days, most days. So
Wow.
it's just, it's I have a few people like that. So I do have some outliers. I do have some people who are currently training, but they just have a bad relationship with food.
Okay. But it sounds like you've got two buckets. I mean, the
Yeah.
thing with the outliers is that you can decide whether to take them on or not take them on. The outliers are always going to be more work. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You might decide that they're just really interesting and you really like them and you really want to work with them. But it's going to be very, very difficult to take them on
Mm-hmm.
as you scale up. And I mean, in my business, we made the decision not to take on outliers, but you might decide differently, and I think that that's fine. But we'll call it the Mats and the mums. And
Sounds
so,
good.
you've got the Mats and the mums. I would think it would make sense for you to bring on an assistant coach for the Mats and an assistant coach for the mums. And in order to do that, you know, work backwards. We just did it with Matt a little bit, but here's the process that I'll kind of leave you with, Forrest, is dig deeper into Matt and maybe think of one or two other guys like Matt that have come on. And do the same thing with the last 2 or 3 mums that you had. And work backwards from the first 3 months of working with you. In what's the first thing you sent them? What's the second thing you sent them? What's the program that you sent them? My guess is that they're pretty much going to be the same. There will be individual differences, right? But you could pretty easily build it into a template and build a number of, call it if-then statements. Like, if this person has a gym membership, give them this template. If they're working out at home, give them this template. And then you're not worried about, and then you can hand it off to somebody who is an expert with that. For the mums, find somebody who's done training into PCOS. Find somebody who maybe is a mum who can connect with them. I mean, even could be somebody that you worked with. I think actually past clients often make the best coaches because they don't need to, the misconception that people have when they bring on folks to work for them is that they think that they need subject matter expertise. And I don't think that that's the case. You are the subject matter expert. They're delivering your expertise. And anything that is outside of the container, outside of the constraints which you lay down, which can be pretty tight, they can just come to you for. And you just build another arm to that octopus. So you just say, oh, okay, well, if this happens, here's what you do. I didn't anticipate it. Now that person knows how to deal with the next person who comes up that has a, I don't know, they eat 6,000 calories or whatever it is when they go out with their friends on the weekends. How you deal with this. Or maybe they'll need to call you in every so often to talk to the person. And I think that that's also perfectly fine. But you should definitely not be scared to get more clients and customers, because I know that you've got the opportunity to do it. So I think that's your process. How does that land?
Sounds good to me. I mean, like getting away from the gym, the last thing I want to do is have more employees, but I guess if it's just 2 people, I mean, I could probably manage that. But yeah, I just didn't want to have to manage more employees.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's you can make the choice as to what you want to do with your business. You can absolutely scale this coaching thing online very quickly, as long as you keep those containers tight and be very careful or don't accept outliers with coaches who are very specific in that thing. And the coaches can be part-time and they can be anywhere, and they certainly don't need to be employees, which is, I mean, I've had a bunch of employees, so I know that I don't really want to have a lot of employees ever again also. Or you can decide that you're happy having 30 or 35 clients and then not growing. But it will be very difficult for you to scale and make a lot more money without bringing on some assistant coaches.
How much, like, so as far as our automation goes, as far as deliverables go, the initial onboarding process, do most people use like a video class style, like kind of like what you do, where you have like your WordPress and you go through all these modules?
Yeah.
Do people do that, or is that overkill?
The only way to do that would be if you had basically the exact same person and carbon copies of that person. It works for us because we are very specific with who, I mean, we turn down 98% of people who apply for this mentorship. And the reason for that is not that we don't think that we could potentially help them. The reason for that is we know the only way to build a scalable mentorship is to be very specific about who we can help and not accept everybody else who doesn't fit into that mold. And we're fortunate enough that we have enough demand that we can do that. but we also don't have the aspirations to grow this massive and accept all that would come along with that. And so that's why Forrest were able to do that kind of onboarding. But if you think about it, I mean, the onboarding is still very people heavy. So we leverage technology to deliver some of the content and to communicate with you in between, for sure. But there's still a lot of humans involved. I mean, you get introduced, there's usually 2, if not 3 people involved in the sales process. And then there's 3 more people involved in the immediate onboarding.
And then how many, so hypothetically, if I had 2 coaches, is that about 30 people per coach? Is that usually like what is the cap?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say yes 100%, but I would start each new coach off with 3 to 5 people at the beginning. Let them go through 1 or 2 rounds with folks. I call a round like basically 12 weeks of coaching. And then start to fill them up after that. Once you're comfortable with them, and once also they've been able to ask you questions, and they get more confident. The last thing that you want to do is give somebody 30 clients and have them not that confident in what they're doing yet. And they're just asking you questions about everything. And then you know less about the client. And then you're having to guide. That's just a nightmare. So start them with 3 to 5. And then, yeah, I mean, ultimately 30 to 35, I would say, would be the max most coaches be able to take on. Some might be able to do more. But overall, if I had to define it, I'd say that'd be about where most people would be pretty comfortable.
Okay. Cool.
All right, Forrest, thank you so much, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate you being here.
Amber again, thanks for listening in. This episode was from a group call from Jonathan's online trainer mentorship, where we host hot seats every 2 weeks. The mentorship is where we take anyone doing from $1,000 to $20,000 a month or more and help them scale up. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in learning more about, please DM the word mentor to Jonathan on Instagram at @itscoachgoodman. If you're looking for another episode to listen to right now, I'd recommend episode 140, What to Hire For. As your business grows, you're going to need help. The hard part is figuring out what to hire for. In this episode, you'll learn what to offload first and getting over the whole "but they're not me" mental hang-up you'll run into when you hire others. Again, that's episode 140, What to Hire For. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next week.